years in bananas, but by the time I got to university, I studied something altogether different. At university, I studied radio and television broadcasting. But of course, I studied that because I was in the public relations department at the Banana Association. And then eventually I studied cooperatives because I had a passion for that kind of organization. So people, as I said, the opportunity is there for you now. With some protection, those of you who are sincere, the law will protect you. And those of you who are sincere must now ensure that everybody around you is also sincere for the organization to survive. You need to support national events. You need to get involved in sponsoring clubs, social groups in the community. This is how you sell yourself socially in the community, and that is going to help people cluster towards, gravitate towards you, so the organization will have more opportunities for growth. Library, Chazelle have been doing that for years. You will see also, as a result of legislation, a reduction in the number of credit unions in St. Lucia. That is also not frightening. There was an intention by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to reduce the number of credit unions to 3. So basically what they were saying was that National Farmers, Miku, and Laris should become 1. Library, Chazelle would become 1 and stretch up to Soufre Canaries, and all of Castries would become 1. But of course, the practicality of that has issues. But we agree as a movement that maybe we could, if we take out Canaries ancillary, bring it down to 9. Some people are saying 5, but we still believe it will be difficult for people to move, say, from Canaries to an AGM in Chazelle and that sort of thing. So if we have a West Coast one in the north there, we have Library doing Vieux-Fort, Chazelle into Soufre and Force Jacques Saltibas being subsumed by one of them, preferably Library from what I'm hearing that's happening. At the political end, I'm hearing that Saltibas is going back to Library for political reasons, so that may be a convenient reason for Library to subsume them. But of course, it's something that Chazelle is not really negotiating. Larissus and Dennery becoming 1, the possibility of Workers' Credit Union and Hospitality becoming 1, and Civil Service and Police forming another, and else of course joining workers, so that there's less work in terms of supervision, but at the same time, what is most important is the benefits to members. The bigger the credit union, the higher the level of benefits members can take, because as you bring the money together, the size of loans, the kind of services you can negotiate based on your strength increases. So do not be afraid when some of those things happen. But based on what I'm seeing, it's very likely that National Farmers will be a standalone. So what that means is if you're going to be a standalone, here is an opportunity for you to begin to jump. I'm always available for advice, and I must say our secretary has never hesitated to ask. At one time, one of my brothers was a director, and he always asked questions. Ronald, who was my clerk when I started this organization, I'm proud to see that he's been the manager for a while. Lilia, they worked from the beginning. I see another former colleague of mine, Mona, is working with you all. She worked with me already. So it means we are still together in terms of where we started and where we're going. I see a lot of new faces on the floor. I can see that you related to people I know, although I don't know some of you specifically. But I can also see some old friends around. I've not seen many people from the Roseau, Jack Mel area as we used to in the old days when we started. I suspect some of them have died because I listened to their announcements and I heard a few names of people I knew from the beginning, 15 years ago. Because you know, generally, it is the older people who join credit unions. Now we want that to change. We want to see more young people coming in and taking control. I became president of Chazelle Credit Union at age 28. I became president of the league at age 29. I spent 13 years as an officer and a director of Chazelle, 7 years on the league board, and then I said, well, I'm getting old, let some young people take over. And I stayed on for 11 years. And then the people came and they said, we want somebody like the Ayatollah Khomeini to come back. The older ones will know about the Ayatollah Khomeini, that's the man with the big stick. Because there were a number of things they would please about, and they knew that under my watch, it couldn't happen. So I said, okay, maybe I'll come back for a year. Well, a year has passed and I'm still around. So it looks like I might be around for a while if God gives me the promise of life. Whether I am in the movement in terms of service or there, I am always available to speak about any issue, to do some training, or to participate in the the development program to ensure that this movement not just survives, but grows and does very, very well. You now need to look around you if you really want this organization to survive, to ensure that you always elect not people you like, not just your friends, but people you know who will keep the laws and people who will respect the regulations and ensure that this organization is always in safe hands. The world economy is not going to wait for you. The world economy, from all indications, will continue to go down before it begins to go up. Worse yet, these days, I spoke about TV in a very strange way a while ago. These days, if you watch the Geographic Channel, National Geographic Channel and History Channel, you will notice and discover that there are some very serious cataclysmic prospects for the world. There are a number of possible disasters. The scientists are not all agreeing on what will happen. Some are saying it won't be as bad as others, but the bottom line is we are already seeing the signs. There will be some cataclysm in the world going forward. Even this year in the Caribbean, we anticipate some, because the temperatures, you can see I'm sweating profusely right now. The sea temperatures are up, I think, almost 2 degrees higher than the last few years. That is a sign of a lot of hurricanes. But compared to what some scientists are saying that will happen, hurricanes are like a bat. There is a prediction that we may have another Noah's Ark situation, because the whole solar system, for those of you who have interest in science, will be going through a cosmic area which they've gone through before, but can have what you call excessive radiation, heat, fire, as a result. Now, those of you who are religious, I'm Orthodox Catholic, some of you are Roman Catholic, there are texts in scriptures which suggest that the next time it won't be water, in reference to the Noah's Ark situation, and that it will be fire. Radiation and fire really, really have no difference. Volcanic eruptions are coming from strange places, earthquakes happening in the Caribbean, killing a quarter of a million people at once, things we never knew before. The prospects are there, but one way of guaranteeing your protection is to work together. I say this to let you know that this is the time which is more important than ever for people to put their hands together cooperatively so that you can survive together. So you can attract better insurance coverage for your members. Right now, I'm on a campaign in Choiseul to ensure every house is insured. I formed an alliance with GTM, which I'm trying to extend to other league members, deliberately, because a lot of companies are in trouble. I've done that because of the way, the ownership of that kind of organization, and the fact that I want an insurance where I can go to the man's office and hit him on his head if I'm not happy, rather than dealing with organizations that I don't know too well. And I'm not trying to give you any impression that GTM is the best insurance company, but as they say, the closer you go to home, the easier it is for you to control what's happening to you. I've done a lot of reading on them, looked at their profit base over the past 2 years, looked at the catastrophic cover, looked at the reinsurance cover, which is very important, and seen that this is something that we absolutely need. Nobody should build a house today and live it without insurance. Nobody should have a vehicle on the road and have it without comprehensive insurance unless maybe you cannot get it. And I can tell you there are some insurance companies, almost any age vehicle can get insured. In fact, GTM is actually offering preferred rates for the movement at this point in time. So it's up to you if you really want to take advantage of it. It will be for your organization to decide where it's heading. But at least this is something I'm trying to do to see that people are covered. We are entering a period where we're going to be at greater risk. Mr. Tench himself is an insurance man. He can offer you other opportunities, maybe even better opportunities. Please ensure that you put yourself in a position that you can negotiate good rates, that you can collectively get better services to your members, so that when that disaster comes, even if it's as mild, as well as I'm putting it, as what happened in Grenada, or as serious as what happened in Haiti, you will be covered. And because you've put your heads together, you have a chance to survive that catastrophe. I did not want to end on that note, but it's the reality. What I want to say before I stop speaking, since we have to go to the business aspect of the meeting, is that I'm really proud of what you've achieved over the past 15 years. I know we could have done a little more, but considering the economic downturn, the main economic sector for farmers practically dead now, bananas, practically dead, it is understandable. But it is for us to now look at the opportunities that are there in other areas of agriculture. We need to feed ourselves. For instance, national farmers, and Julius, my friend, and now begin to look at starting to produce all poultry that we consume in St. Lucia. St. Lucia consumes the highest amount of chicken per capita in the world. We eat more chicken per person than any other country in the world. Yet we import it, and everybody can grow fowl in his yard. Of course, we need to go a little more than growing fowls in our yards, but it's possible. The fowl will not be cheaper, but one, you'll be healthier. There'll be less cancer. There'll be less strokes because there'll be very little steroids in the meat that you eat. You see our children now at 12 years taller than me. The girls big like my grandmother already at 12, 14 because of the steroids and all the other additives that are used in American chicken to overgrow them. And in fact, what is most important is the chicken that we bring from the States is reject. It's dumb. If you buy chicken that is produced here, it's much healthier, even if it's more expensive. So I think this organization and other credit unions can begin to look at diversifying what we're doing so that we can feed ourselves with both fish, meat, and food production, crop production, and root crop production so that we can have a reduction in our food import bill, we can have a stronger economy, we can have a stronger country, and most importantly, we can then begin proudly when we've retired or when we've gotten close to saying goodbye to this world that we have done something good for ourselves, for our children, and the generations to come. I wish to congratulate you once again, and I hope you have the best meeting you've ever had. And I hope that the movement and this organization can grow from strength to strength. Thank you.
Which covered a whole range of aspects of credit union movement, finance, survival, and whatnot. We do appreciate your insights and your advice, and we hope that this is going to be with us as we move forward. At this point, I need to acknowledge the presence of some key people here. We have Mr. Egbert Stevens from the Co-operative department. He was with us here last year, and he's here with us again today, and we're pleased to have you, sir, participating in our meeting. We also have representatives from our sister credit unions. We have Mr. Henry Arnell representing the Modripo Credit Union. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us today. We do appreciate that. And as usual, always with us, Mr. Lucia from the Library Credit Union, a stalwart in the credit union movement, sir. We're pleased to have you here and happy that you can participate with us and celebrate with us in our important day today. I have a few apologies for absence for members of our board of directors, Mr. MacArthur Jabatis, Mr. Wright Fontenelle, and Ms. Olga Antoine. Ms. Olga Antoine is on the board, but she's out of state. MacArthur and Mr. Fontenelle is also out of state. So my apologies on behalf of these two persons. We move on with our agenda. Now we're going to move away from the official opening session and smoothly move into our business session. And the first item we will address is the reading of the minutes and confirmation of the minutes of the 13th and 14th AGM. You would recall last year we had 2 AGMs in one. So the secretary, Mr. Tench, is going to read to us the minutes. You in turn would note any corrections and amendments that needs to be done. You will do that, and afterwards we'll take matters arising out of the minutes. Mr. Tench.
Thank you, Mr. Paulius. Before I start, I want to draw your attention to the standing orders of this meeting on page 4. If you can turn to page 4, please note the standing orders of this meeting. I'm going to read minutes of the 13th and 14th Annual General Meeting of the AGM of National Farmers and General, held on Sunday, July 12, 2009 at Skyway Inn, Beanfield View, Ford. If we remember, some of our members were in attendance, that we, on that date, had 2 AGMs instead of 1. We had the 13th and the 14th together, due to circumstances beyond our control. Okay, I'm going to proceed reading the minutes of the 13th and 14th of the annual general meeting. The theme of that AGM was nurturing our investment for long-term sustainability. Board of Directors members in attendance: Mr. Simon Leon, President; MacArthur Jean-Baptiste, Vice President; Kenneth Hilaire, Secretary; Leonard Esnard, Secretary; Olga Antoine, Second Vice President; Wright Fontenelle, Treasurer; and Peterson Jean-Charles, Director. Our Corridor Committee, the Chairman, Elias Tench; Alvin Samuel, Member; William Marius, Member; and Susan Alo Gonzag, Member. Absent was Dr. Ewan Booth, who was a member of the Credit Committee. Staff in attendance: Ronald James, Manager; Winston Henry, Credit Officer; Mary Louise, Accounts Clerk; Lilia Jean-Baptiste, Administration Assistant; Shauna Ogis, Delinquency Officer; Alma Bryce, Customer Rep Supervisor; Donna Antoine Taylor; Cassandra Alexander Taylor; Valan Michelle Taylor; Daniel Vaval Taylor; Shanta Fontenelle, Eugene Taylor; and Della Daniel Trini. We move on to the agenda. The agenda was adopted without change. Opening session, call to order. Item 1, the 13th and 14th annual meeting of the National Farmers and General Workers Co-operative Credit Union League was called to order by the past President, Mr. Simon Leon, at approximately 11:40. The welcome address was done by Mrs. Diana Sherwin. Mrs. Sherwin, a member, welcomed all present and congratulated members on the occasion of National Farmers 13th and 14th AGM. She asked members to be attentive and also encouraged them to participate in the proceedings, expressing best wishes for a successful meeting. Item 4, rebranding and launching of new products and services, serious Caribbean images. That was the presenter. The launching and rebranding of National Farmers and General Workers Credit Union new products and services was done in a form of a PowerPoint presentation by Mrs. Miguel Edwin. Serious Caribbean Images representative reference was made to the following points: media jingles in English and Patois dialect increase the corporate image of the credit union; questionnaires, feedback on members, satisfaction, dissatisfaction, and suggestion for improvement. Business cards for the manager and loans officer, official letterhead, flyers, posters, informing members of the benefits of the Family Indemnity Plan, FIP. Step by step, the introduction of accounts designed specifically for minors ages 0 to 16 years. And the feature address was by Mr. Augustus Cuddy. Item 5. Mr. Cuddy expressed his pleasure to the credit union for affording him the opportunity to address the gathering and also being able to share with management, staff, members in the joy of the accomplishment. Thus far, 14 years of service, 14 years of survival amidst the turmoil and prevailing global crisis. We go to page 10. He focused on the global economic crisis and elaborated on the financial crisis facing the world today, which he said was largely due to the bad financial practices of big banks in the United States of America and the lack of proper regulation from the relevant financial regulatory authorities, which has landed the US and the rest of the world in the mess that we are in today. He further stated that in the time of need, people usually get creative and poor, and people have historically responded to the imperfect access to credit markets with their own initiatives. In countries like St. Lucia, Susu, and Beja were formed as means by which poor people attempted to liberate themselves from economic bondage. It may be said that the cooperative credit union movement was born from the bowels of these early initiatives. Members were reminded that they are part of that proof that people can help themselves and do help themselves, not only in the trivial ways but also in the most consequential of ways. Members were also encouraged to continue investing in the credit union because there is not as great an emphasis on the collateral security in securing credit from the credit unions as there would be with a commercial bank. Also, apart from the real investment opportunities which credit unions offer over commercial banks, credit unions also provide members with a glorious opportunity to contribute in development of the communities. In conclusion, Mr. Kide also once again congratulated management, staff, and members on the achievement of 14 years of existence and urged the gathering to be cognizant of the changes presently taking place globally and the consequences of these changes on our economy. Adjournment of lunch. The meeting adjourned for lunch at 12:45 p.m. and resumed at 3:05 p.m. under the chairmanship of President Simon Leon. The closed session. Ascertainment of quorum. The Secretary, Mr. Kenneth Villet, confirmed that the meeting was duly constituted with a total of over 100 members present. The list of registered attendees is attached for reference. He then read the minutes of the 12th Annual General Meeting held on Sunday, July 1st, 2007. Item 2 on page 10, reading and approval of minutes of the 12th AGM. A motion that the minutes of the 12th Annual General Meeting to be taken as read was moved by Mrs. Eusebia Jean-Baptiste and seconded by Mr. Samson Eugene. Page 11. Item 2.2, errors and omissions, page 9. Any other business? The name Eliza spelled incorrectly should read Uzelta. Take note. Item 3, confirmation of minutes. The minutes were confirmed by majority of the attendees. 3.1, matters arising from the minutes. Page 6 of the annual report, last paragraph. A member inquired as to the requirements for the payment of dividends. In response, Mr. Egbert Stevens from the Cooperative Department stated that in accordance with the Section 19(3) of the Cooperative Societies Act, not less than 25% of the society's net surplus of 15 of the members' shares and deposits and 10% of liability in reserves must be maintained before dividends can be paid. Page 28, table delinquency at 21%. A member wanted to know what was being done about the rate of delinquency. The meeting was informed that reviews of the collection policy, along with a collection officer, were implemented. Defaulting members are contacted via the telephone. Subsequently, 3 consecutive letters are sent to the members before court action is taken against them. Also, from 2004-2005, the delinquency rate has decreased. However, some delinquent loans need to be written off as they are uncollectible. Item 313. Page 18 of the audited financial statement provisions for bad debt. Another member wanted to know why provisions for bad debt. The meeting was informed that the law requires that the provisions be made for bad debts. Adoption, confirmation of reports. The Board of Directors, item 4.1. The report was presented by Secretary Mr. Kenneth Hille as detailed in the 2007-2008 annual report, page 10 to 15. A motion for the adoption of the report of the Board of Directors was moved by Mr. Thaddeus Fontina and second by Mr. Clement Bill. Page 12, Credit Committee. The report was presented by Mr. Kenneth Hille as detailed in 2007 and 2008 annual report, pages 16 to 24. A motion was moved by Mr. Leonard Esna to adopt the Credit Committee's report and seconded by Mr. Albertson Catherine. Treasurer's report. The report was also presented by Mr. Kenneth Hille as detailed in 2007 and 2008 annual report, pages 27 to 28. A motion for the adoption of the Treasurer's report was moved by Mrs. Diana Sherwin and seconded by Mr. Morrison Montour. Item 5, remarks by Cooperative Department Representative Mr. Egbert Stevens, Cooperative Officer assigned to National Farmers and General Cooperative Credit Union, that addressed the gathering and made reference to the following: failure to hold the AGM within the stipulated time frame, violation of requirements, non-functioning supervisory committee, need for some kind of education to explain to the members the implementation of permanent shares, non-matrix of membership activities, numbers of directors, committee meetings held during the year, and respective members' attendance at these meetings in the 2007 and 2008 annual report. Mr. Stevens concluded by affirming his department's commitment to support and direct the National Farmers and General Workers Cooperative Credit Unions. He also urged staff and members to work hand in hand in order to decrease delinquency and increase profitability. 5.1. Auditor's report. The auditor's report, Auditor Mr. Mario Lendo read the report as detailed in 2007 and 2008 annual report, pages 30 to 51. Comments. The report focused on management's responsibility for the financial statements, audit responsibility, reservations, and presented a final opinion. Reference was made to the following. 5.2. Loans and savings, provisions for loans impairment, capital investment, interest rate on loan from St. Lucia Cooperative Link. Page 13. Substantial withdrawal of funds also by NFTU in 2008. 5.2. Nonetheless, it was highlighted that the financial statements in all material aspects were a true statement of the financial position of the national farmers for the period under review. Results of the operation and cash flows for the year 2007 and 2008 were prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. A motion was moved for the adoption of the auditor's report by Mr. Leonard Esnat, seconded by Mr. Francil Dwakasing, and carried by the majority. Election of officers, 5.3. Vacancies on the governing committees were Board of Directors, 4 positions, Credit Committees, 2 positions, Supervisory Committee, 3 positions. 5.3. Mr. Egbert Stevens from the Cooperative Department read out the rules governing the elections of the officers and also assisted in conducting the elections. And we see the exhibit, election results, Mr. Polius, Robert Rosary, Bonnie Poyal, Board of Directors, Mr. Julius Polius, Johnny Fontenot, Thaddeus Fontenot, and Elias Tench. Credit Committee, Robert Rosary, Francis Charles, Mr. MacArthur Jean-Baptiste, Bonnie Poyal, Yusef Damoshiri, and Leonard Esnat. We move to 5.4 on page 13, appointment of auditor. The membership indicated they were not satisfied with the performance of the auditor, Mr. Mario Lendo. The firm of Trinity and Associates was appointed as the auditing firm for the ensuing year. 5.5. Any other business? The staff were recognized and awarded in recognition of their lividity, loyalty, dedication, commitment, and service to national farmers over the years. The prizes for the raffle conducted at the meeting were donated by National Farmers and General Cooperative Credit Union and won by the following persons. Page 14. Exhibit 2, prizes and winners. Day pass for 2 at Coconut Bay Resorts, Diana Sherwin, winner. Agricultural inputs valued at $500 EC, Virginia Tellian, winner. Deposit $200 on account at National Farmers, winner Francine Dwakaseng. And food hampers, 6 food hampers. Verlita Blanchard, Alicia Fontenelle, Maudie Noel, Leonard Esna, Joseph Ephraim, and Lincoln O'Brien. AF Balmore gift vouchers valued at $75 each, won by 3 persons. Morella Silis, Francis Charles, and Janice Montoot. Southern Taxi, gas vouchers valued at $50 each, 4 persons, 4 winners, Ron Joseph, Marilyn Furden, Februna Jerry, and Trevor King. Vote of thanks, 5-6. Mr. MacArthur Jean-Baptiste expresses gratitude to the guest speaker, Mr. Augustus Kadeh, for his acceptance to the address, the annual general meeting representative of Serious Caribbean Images for the presentation of
Page by page, beginning with page 8. Okay, page 9. Matters arising, page 9. Matters arising, page 10. Matters arising, page 11. Matters arising, page 12. Matters arising, page 13. Matters arising, page 14. Given that no matters arising, we consider this agenda item completed. Members, I need to give an apology for the fact that this report was not circulated to members ahead of today, because I'm wondering whether there may be a reason why we're not getting a more We will begin with the Board of Directors report. And as far as your document is concerned, it begins on page 15. Yes, sir.
Just a clarification on the member's comment. The act does state that the financial statements should be in circulation at the 10 days. And from reports of the manager, that wasn't available at the set. Yes, it was. So I came to site and I saw it. So if members did not come and to site and get a copy, the financial statements, not the appropriation booklet, I would ask that the financial statements be available. Well, the manager
Yeah, thank you very much. Any points of clarification? But Mr. Foyer, we take note of your concern. I think it's a legitimate one. And I think we'll try our next time around to stick to the rules and conform. We had some challenges going forward, but that's not the case. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, what are the directors report of the 15th annual report of the Board of Directors for the financial year ending December 21st, 2009. Introduction. National Farmers and General Workers Credit Union was able to achieve a much improved performance in 2009 when compared to the previous year. From a governance standpoint, we were able to appoint a three-person education committee that comprised of Mrs. Diana Sheridan, Mrs. Nicola Velas, and Mrs. Muruna Jide. However, seriously, less than one member of the supervisory committee, which is a committee that we also appointed, limited that committee's function. And I'm pleased today to see Mr. Boyer here, because for the entire period it was in, and I'm happy to see him here and welcome. But the work of that committee was severely limited. In fact, it never functioned at all. That's because of the investments that were checked on that. The organization achieved growth and a strong performance in its financial operations. Improvements over the previous period were recorded in the areas of total assets, cash investment, member shares, members' deposits, loans, net income, and members' equity. Notably, the implementation of the permanent shares concept will certainly help in stabilizing the organization's financial position. There was also a significant drop in the levels of expenses and loan delinquency. It is important to note that members continue to demonstrate a growing interest in the trusted services that the organization provides. There will increase subscription to the FIP and the facility for paying utility bills. National Farmers continue to exercise social responsibility through contributions to community causes like Environment Home and the St. Louis Hospital Reconstruction Fund. While official bills were made in key indicator areas, the growth in membership Staffing. Credit union operates with a staff of 12 persons to execute the directives and policies of the board of directors. Exhibit 4 gives a listing of the staff members and their position. Training and development. In an attempt to keep up to date with the industry and to provide better services to membership, we must educate and train our staff. Hence, we must expose our staff to external training by professionals in the relevant fields. On May 1st, 2009, staff attended a one-day workshop in Paris, staff development and customer service. Supervision and regulation. The proposed single regulatory unit, SRU, established by the monitoring and supervision of financial institutions, including credit unions, is on stream to be implemented in 2010. It is expected that the implementation of the SRU will necessitate changes in the way we have been doing business, along with the costs. Anti-money laundering regulations. The National Farmers Credit Union under the law has the legal obligation to adhere to the anti-money laundering regulation. We try to ensure that our membership is in compliance with the requirements of the regulation by carrying out the requirements as mandated under the Act. For example, asking persons to declare the source of funds when necessary. We have the legal duty to report any suspicious activity to the financial authority or the case. Credit union services. Life savings and loan protection insurance, LP/LS. The National Farmers offers its membership insurance protection on loans and savings through Premium Mutual Group. Presently, loan protection insurance coverage is on $70,000 and life savings is on $50,000. For the year 2009, the credit union paid a total of $887 from members in March. And table 2 gives you a summary of the statistics. The FIT family indemnity plan. During the time of bereavement, FIT can provide an extra measure of comfort to family members. This plan offers coverage to persons up to 76 years of age. As members become more voluntary, we have recorded an increase in subscription in this plan. This year's end, there is approximately 199 registered members. And the table 3 gives you the statistics of the FIT. Payments of utility bills. For the members whose time is limited, the provision of this service is convenient as resident bills can be paid simultaneously for the transaction. Payments of electricity bills over the year amounted to some $74,742.13. Including the commission of about $539 on this transaction. Scholarship. During the year review, one new scholarship was added to the list, that is Diana J.D.A. She attends the St. Louis Fund. Altogether, in 2009, the credit union supported 4 students and made a contribution of $6,000 to the students. Donations. The National Farmers during the year also honored its role as a good cooperative. In light of this, we made donations to a number of schools, community groups, and underprivileged. St. Lucia, the St. Louis Hospital, and the Mario Group. Total donation made during the year amounted to $11,840.40. Future direction. As we seek to achieve some measure of growth in the coming years, the organization shall endeavor to improve on the quality and range of products offered to members. Included among those shall be regional health tax service, special products for members 50 years and over, checking account, and an internal deposit box. Permanent shares. By resolution passed at the 2016 year, it was agreed to implement permanent shares. At the 2007-2008 AGM, the Board of Directors proposed that dividend be paid at 2.25%, which will be transferred to those permanent shares. On September 1st, 2009, permanent shares were anticipate a continuation in strength with stronger coordination. Whether it's providing loans that members cover unexpected expenses, offering a better solution on legal financing, or giving financial advice as your trusted friend, the credit union is there to make a difference for our members and the communities we serve. The Board of Directors would like to express sincere appreciation to the manager and staff whose dedication and commitment has been the driving force behind the credit union's progress over the years. Our organization is facing unprecedented times, which brings enormous opportunities for us to do what we have always done best: provide credit and services to those who need it most, even when it's hardest in our life. Together, there is no stopping us. Together, we thrive and grow. Acknowledgement. Our sincere gratitude is also extended to the members of the various committees who gave their time and effort during the year 2009, and to you, our valued members. Here is the report. And I ask for adoption of the report and somebody move for adoption of the director's report. Hello? Okay, we move on with our agenda. The next report is the treasurer's report, and we submit to the secretary to present the treasurer's report. I think procedurally, as a board, we ought to have done something about that. I think it was within our remit to have done that. I don't know whether the law speaks specifically to that. Yes, you can enlighten us in this particular section.
Well, what the law does is that whenever vacancy occurs on any of the committees, the board of directors have the authority to
Any comments on the report? Yes. Mr. Tibu. And just leave the mic out there so that you can pass.
I want to be I just quickly looking at the report, and I think we are going to be based on what that young lady asked. If you could indicate in your report somewhere as to the performance of the directors, how long they have to whether they have been attending meetings and doing what they're supposed to do. This is something I'm sure the representative of the corporate sector would advise, and that is something that is necessary to put within the report. And I quickly, I just observed the point that it's not.
I think so. And I think some matter that was released last year. When you read the release last year, but the statistics of attendance of meetings and whatnot, you have that. It's just that I think we did not but I think it's a local observation. I think it's relevant in the report. So at least the persons who are directors, they know a bit about their performance. That I think that if we're talking about road power, we're talking about road performance has to be a feedback, and we need to know what's there. So that when we report back to you, it's just not only the global thing, what you see in there, but you know how this is performed. I think it's a good one.
John, can you please elaborate more on permanent shares and ordinary shares?
Elaborate more.
Permanent shares and ordinary shares, what are the difference? Page 19.
Permanent shares are shares that members, okay, you have shares in ordinary shares that you can walk in and take off, you withdraw. It's called callable shares. But permanent shares are not callable. It remains there and it stays in the institution and it's back to the capital base of the institution. So these you cannot call upon them at will. And it remains there as a capital outlay within the organization that allows it to have leverage as it does business and income. So the difference is the ease with which you can withdraw those shares. Permanent, no callable shares you can.
Because I have the space when it was only 13.25 was the last check.
What's that?
On the same issue, on the same subject, right? You were just saying 2.25% was paid.
Yeah.
Right? And that one was paid on the permanent shares.
Yes,
And that's what I tried to tell them was saying that they received nothing. That's why I put the question.
okay. Yeah, but then these members now have permanent shares in the organization that is going to bring some interest down the line. So when you say they did not receive anything, they did not receive anything. Yeah, but we had agreed to convert those into permanent shares. It was an agreement. But Any more questions on the report? Okay, I think we'll move on to the Treasurer's report. Jenny Fontenelle, who is the Assistant Secretary, will present that report.
Treasurer's report for the financial year ended December 31st, 2009. The National Farmers Cooperative Credit Union's performance can be described as reassuring in spite of certain fundamental issues critical to the sustainability of the credit union. These issues confronting the financial performance of the credit union are being addressed decisively. Despite a decrease of 10% in 2009 as compared to the 21% in 2008, the malignant issue of delinquency is, however, the most stubborn of these challenges. The NF and GWCCU will continue its collection policy in an effort to further reduce the bad debt situation. In 2008, provision for bad debt was $210,627 as compared to a recovery of $148,875 in 2009. A positive sign for the credit union. Delinquency affects all members and the organization. Delinquency also increases operating costs, reduce our surplus and thus the payments of dividends and patronage funds, as well as negatively impacting on the other things we do or can do, such as providing scholarships and others, assets and liabilities. Notwithstanding the challenges, we continue to experience growth in almost all areas of our operations, as is manifested in the following increases: shares by 6%, members' deposits by 8%, loans by 9%, and an overall increase in assets by 9% as compared to the 1.16% in 2008. Cash and bank balances increased by 40% in 2009 compared to 2008. We also realized significant increases in investment of 10% in 2008. Income statement. Revenue increased by $1,298,227 or 0.63% compared to $1,306,503 in 2008. Total expense for the year in review reduced from $1,069,503 to $837,635 this is due to a recovery of funds from delinquent members. The net income increased from $274,809 in 2008 to $512,873 in 2009, an increase of 87%. Acknowledgements. I express my sincere thanks to the management and staff for their continued dedication and hard work towards the continued success of our credit union, and also to the members for their loyalty over the years. Yours sincerely, August Antoine, Assistant Treasurer. Thank you.
Any questions, concerns, points of clarification of the Treasurer's report?
Income statement. So this concluded the for the reduction in the expense is very good. But the report is saying that this is due to the maintenance correction, and this is completely different. If you have a reduction in your expense,
Lucia did such a good recovery of collecting those different loans. You do not have to make an allocation for that purpose. So as a result, you have a recovery. That is what happening. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what you say is very good in the accounting terms and way to say that's how it is. So you reduce the expenses so then, but you don't have to make a provision for that loan payment. Is there another?
The direct on different financial reports. Because they have not gone through the financial report and it's only right calculation of the process.
I was just trying to answer the question as well.
Any other comments on the federal report? Okay, we move on to the credit committee report. The chairman of the credit committee I mentioned earlier, Dr. Steve, that's Mr. Agaka Kabati. So, Mr. Anthony Samuel will present the credit committee report. Sorry, I'm going a little ahead of my time. I want to move on adoption of the treasury report. Somebody move for that. Second. Ready? Thank you.
Very coming to compensation, $1,505,972, percentage amount of 18%. Total amount of loans approved, 95. Percentage of loan, 8%. Mortgage, we have 653,000. Percentage amount of 8%. Total number of loans for mortgage, 9. Percentage of loan amount, 1%. Travel,